My mother has spiraled into affairs, theft, delusions, and daily rage. Our once stable home now feels like living with a stranger who resents us, gaslights us, and might destroy our entire family. I don't know how much longer we can survive this. My mother is 47 years old. On the surface, if you looked at my life, you'd probably think I have nothing to complain about. I come from a wealthy family. We live in a nice gated community. Our family income is upwards of 18 crores a year, and I'm an MBBS intern. We're not struggling financially. We're not facing the kind of hardships many families out there face. But inside our home, it's a completely different story, one that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And the center of that story, the storm we've all been living through, is my mother. For years now, she's been creating one disaster after another. She has had multiple affairs, and not the kind where you could at least try to pretend they didn't happen. No, these were with people right inside our lives, our house staff, our drivers, even neighbors. Every time one of these affairs was discovered, there would be consequences. The staff had to be fired, drivers let go, relationships with neighbors permanently damaged. One particular affair with a neighbor uncle turned into a full-blown tamasha, complete with shouting, accusations, and embarrassment for both families involved. In our community, word spreads fast, and once you're at the center of a scandal like that, people don't forget. My father, my sister, and I have had to hold our heads high and pretend like nothing is wrong, even as everyone knows the whispers are about us. But it hasn't stopped there. Lately, my mother has crossed another line. She has started stealing money from our own house. And I don't mean small amounts. Recently, she took 20,000 rupees straight from my sister's purse and then had the audacity to blame our cook for it. She was ready to throw an innocent person under the bus, someone who has worked for us loyally, just to cover up her actions. Thankfully, we figured it out before it went further. But the damage was done. The cook had to defend herself from baseless accusations, and it left an ugly taste in everyone's mouths. And the thing is, it's not like she doesn't have access to money. My father gives her whatever she needs. She has always had the freedom to take small amounts, 2,000 to 4,000 daily from his wallet, which has never been an issue. But now it's escalated to her taking full bundles, 20,000 to 50,000 at a time from the family locker. We discovered that she gifted a 40,000 rupee phone to one of her affair partners. Can you imagine how that feels? To see the money from your own house, your own father's hard work, being handed to someone who is helping your mother betray your family? It's a level of disrespect that's hard to process. And if that wasn't enough, it's the daily neglect and manipulation that makes life unbearable. Take something as small as dinner the other day. She forced our cook to take leave, saying she wanted to prepare dinner for us herself. She insisted on it, acted like she wanted to do something special. But when the time came, she dressed up and left for a kiddie party. Of course, those things are always pre-planned. It wasn't last minute. She just lied. My dad came home from work, hungry and tired, and there was no food. Delivery in our area takes at least 1.5 hours, and none of us know how to cook. That's why we hired a cook in the first place. It's not about the food itself. We could survive being hungry one night. It's about the complete lack of care, the casual cruelty of pretending like she cared and then leaving us stranded. It's about making us feel like afterthoughts in her own home. Living with her feels like living with a stranger, or worse, an enemy within your own walls. She is unpredictable, often manipulative, and always capable of some new form of betrayal. There's no stability, no peace, no sense of safety when she's around. She throws microaggressions at us constantly, small comments, dismissive tones, little digs that remind us she resents us, that she doesn't see us as family, but rather as obstacles in her way. The hardest part of all this is that she's my mother. If this were a friend, I'd cut them out of my life. If this were staff, I'd fire them. If this were a random person, I'd walk away and never look back. But how do you do that with your own mother? How do you reconcile the fact that the person who's supposed to nurture you, protect you, and hold the family together is the very person tearing it apart? Whenever we try to sit my mother down and have an honest conversation about her behavior, it always turns into chaos. Instead of listening, she'll start shouting at the top of her lungs, acting intimidating, or sometimes even singing loudly to drown out our words. It feels childish, almost surreal, like we're trying to address serious issues, but she turns it into a theater of noise and drama, so she doesn't have to face herself. And when she does speak, she always comes back to the same excuse. She didn't want to become this way, but when she found out about my father's affairs, she had to change to find her own peace. She frames her actions, the affairs, the lies, the manipulation, even the theft, as some sort of retaliation or survival tactic. She wants us to see her as a victim of circumstance, as someone who had no choice but to lash out. But that's not the reality. Whatever my father did in the past, and yes, he had many affairs, it doesn't justify the way she's treated us, her children, or the way she's continued to burn everything around her. Because it's not just about her and my father anymore. Somewhere along the way, her bitterness spread to us. Me, my sister, my brother. She resents us in ways that are hard to even put into words. With my sister especially, it's vicious. When my sister was preparing for college admissions, my mother actively tried to sabotage her chances. I remember the arguments, the way she'd twist small things into bigger obstacles, the way she almost seemed to enjoy making the process harder than it needed to be. When my sister finally earned her first rupee, instead of celebrating her achievement, my mother mocked her. She taunted her, as though my sister's independence was an insult to her own existence. She's deeply, deeply sexist in her behavior. She pushes my sister relentlessly into household work, emotionally bullying her into cooking or cleaning, as if her only role in life is to serve. And she's openly expressed her desire to marry my sister off quickly, not because it's in my sister's best interest, but because she wants her out of the way, so she can have the house to herself. Every time she says it, my blood boils. I fight her on it every single time, and it always escalates into shouting matches. But what else am I supposed to do? Stay quiet while my sister is treated like some disposable object, a burden to be passed on? She fights with us almost every single day. The theme is always the same. We don't respect her enough. She'll say it over and over, sometimes crying, sometimes raging, demanding apologies from us for things we didn't even do. She forces us into these humiliating situations where we're expected to apologize just to calm her down, but here's the thing, she has never once apologized to us. Not once. Not for the affairs, not for the lies, not for the money she's stolen, not for the emotional hell she's put us through. Instead, she says she's forgiven herself and therefore doesn't need anyone else's forgiveness. That single line makes me feel like I'm losing my mind. How do you forgive yourself while the people you've hurt are still bleeding? How do you absolve yourself without ever acknowledging the pain you've caused? It's the very definition of gaslighting. We've told her so many times, if she's this unhappy, if she feels so trapped, she should just leave our father. We've encouraged her to take that step, to build her own life. But she refuses. She says she doesn't want to leave him. Sometimes I think it's because she doesn't have the courage. Sometimes I think it's because, as toxic as it is, their broken dynamic gives her a strange sense of power. My father wronged her, so now she wrongs him, and us, endlessly, like she's keeping score in a game no one else is playing. And underneath all of this, I know she hates herself. I can see it in the way she talks. She makes constant comments about her aging face, the wrinkles forming on her neck, her thinning hair. She'll stand in front of the mirror, criticizing herself, sometimes bitterly laughing, sometimes near tears. Yes, she's aging, we all are. That's life. But she talks about herself as though she's worthless, as though every fold in her skin is proof of her failure, and I think it feeds her resentment towards the rest of us. Instead of dealing with her self-esteem issues, she projects them onto us, dragging us into her own spiral of misery. And I'll be honest, I don't know how much more I can take. Every day feels like walking on eggshells. I love her because she's my mother, but I don't like her. I don't like the person she's chosen to become. I don't like the constant fights, the manipulation, the selfishness, the way she turns her bitterness into a weapon against her own children. I'm tired of being forced to apologize for existing while she takes no responsibility for anything. When I look at my mother now, I barely recognize the woman who raised us. She used to be a housewife, the kind of person whose whole life revolved around family and home. And maybe that's part of the problem. Somewhere along the line, she decided she didn't want to be just a housewife anymore. She said she wanted independence, her own identity, her own career. My father, to his credit, supported her. He gave her the money she asked for, and she opened a boutique. At first, I thought maybe this would be good for her. Maybe having something of her own to pour her energy into would ground her, give her purpose, and bring some positivity back into her life. But 2 years later, that boutique is running at a heavy loss. And instead of rethinking, pivoting, or admitting that maybe it wasn't working out, she doubled down. She opened another branch. And now both shops operate at a loss, bleeding money every single month. My father pays for everything, the salaries of her staff, the rent, the utilities, the constant deficit. He doesn't even complain. He's the one holding this whole sinking ship afloat because he doesn't want to crush her dream. And for a while, I think even he believed that keeping her busy with her boutique would keep her from spiraling into other destructive habits. But now, instead of scaling back or reflecting on reality, she's fixated on opening a third boutique. It's insane. She says she's determined to make more money, as though adding another hole to the sinking boat will somehow make it float. My father finally drew a line in the sand and said he won't finance it. And ever since then, our house has turned into a war zone. Endless shouting matches day after day. She rants, she screams, she throws accusations, and nothing we say makes a difference. And the scariest part? She doesn't even live in reality anymore. She spends hours with her earphones in, glued to YouTube, binging manifestation videos and so-called gurus who preach that you can become anything you want if you just believe it hard enough. And she does. She firmly believes, delusionally believes, that she's already a millionaire, that her business is booming. She talks about it like it's a fact, as though her losses aren't real, as though the bills my father pays every month don't exist. She repeats affirmations, even falls asleep with those videos playing in her ears. It's like she's hypnotizing herself into a fantasy world that none of us live in. And in the process, she's dragging us down with her. I dread coming home. All of us do. The moment we step inside, the air feels heavy, poisonous, filled with tension. Outside, the world feels calm, normal, safe. But home? Home feels like a cursed place. The woman who used to be my mother, warm, sometimes strict, sometimes funny, but at least present, is gone. What's left is a hollow shell, a stranger who happens to look like her, but doesn't act like her anymore. I wish I were exaggerating when I say I fear for our lives, but I'm not. Her delusions are so deep, her anger so unpredictable, that it doesn't feel far-fetched to imagine her poisoning us one day and justifying it to herself as some twisted act of liberation or revenge. Living in constant fear of what your own mother might do is a level of psychological torment I wouldn't wish on anyone. We've tried, God knows we've tried, to talk to her, to reason with her, to help her. But in her mind, she's the smartest person in the room, the visionary, the one who sees things we're too foolish to understand. And us? We're just conspirators. She's convinced that I'm plotting against her, that my siblings and my father are all secretly scheming to bring her down. She refuses to hear anything else. Any word of advice, any attempt to hold up a mirror, gets twisted into proof that we're against her. We even tried therapy. For one brief, fragile moment, I thought maybe professional help would break through. But the last therapist she agreed to see only made things worse. Instead of grounding her, that therapist gave her empowering advice about taking back control of her life, and my mother took that as a green light to dive headfirst into more affairs. That was the beginning of her spiral, really. Since then, therapy is a taboo subject. Suggest it, and you'll get another shouting match about how we all think she's crazy. At this point, I'm at my wit's end. I don't even know what else to do. It's like watching someone set themselves on fire and then scream at you for trying to put out the flames. She's on a self-sabotage journey, hell-bent on destruction, and I can't shake the fear that she'll take the entire family down with her. What do I even do at this point? How do you help someone who is so deep in denial, so consumed by anger, delusion, and self-sabotage, that they refuse to even acknowledge there's a problem? Is it possible to get through to a parent who twists every word into an attack and believes their own children are conspiring against them? Should I keep trying to talk sense into her? Or is it healthier to step back and protect myself and my siblings from the chaos? How do you live in a home where you constantly feel unsafe, where your own mother feels like a stranger and maybe even a threat? Is there any way to push her toward real therapy when she's convinced it's useless? Or should I stop forcing it and accept that she won't change? How do I balance my duty as her child with the toll it's taking on my mental health? Am I wrong for feeling like I just want to walk away from it all?